So, greetings one and all. Greetings one and all. Of course, we've never done anything quite like this before. We did have a guest for Easter, but we were all inside and there were only two of us. But this is more ambitious, so thank you for your understanding. Let's take a moment now and get settled and centered. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath as we remember what this gathering is all about. So in through the nose, big breath in, long, slow exhale. And feel yourself slowing down, settling down. As we move our awareness from moving at the pace of mind and emotion to moving at the true pace of life, the pace of trees and stones and seasons. Let us remember in this moment that there is a way of being so different than what we become attached to, so different than what we become distracted by. And it is a way that is filled with purpose and harmony, the ability to overcome adversity and endure and shine beautifully throughout. And this is the way of nature. And so with our breath, we settle into that space. Feel the stillness like the night sky filling you. To the one that is all, pure existence, spirit of life, to the great mystery, dear God. Today we are humbled by our gratitude for the beauty, the power, the generosity, the love, and the wisdom that we find in the natural world. Today we affirm and bless our human community as a part of this family. We remember today that we too are nature. And yet today we bring our hearts together in tribute, in celebration, in love for the more than human world, for the natural forces and friends and family of our planet, from the high mountains to the vast deserts, oceans, jungles, grasslands, from the smallest creatures, fleas and flies, to the great elephants and the great blue whale. In this moment, we open our hearts to all creation, all of life, and its endless, abundant message to us. Its endless, abundant companionship, its endless, abundant medicine. We are fed in body, mind, heart, and soul by nature each and every day. And so today we give thanks and we pray for a great awakening within this relationship, that we, the human community, would find our place again in the family of life and honor, protect, serve, and celebrate the life that we live among. For we are ultimately the most vulnerable in this great web. For all these blessings for our natural world, for our earth, for all its creatures and all places and spaces and forces, we lift them up. And with all the unspoken prayers together we say, Amen. In the same way as we offer this prayer from the place of unity and oneness, we are also affirming the same wisdom every time we get together at the Althea Center, when we remember our history, when we remember our founders, and when we remember the brave women that created the legacy that we all share today. And so in that spirit, we are going to read the Statement of Being. And the Statement of Being is such a profound reminder that everything in the natural world must be seen as the first expression of spirit. That without the modification or the refinement or the adjustment by human hands, what arises naturally is the closest thing we have to spirit. It's the closest thing we have to perfection. And in that way, we can see that yes, even in spirit, there's great diversity, great dynamism, there is creation, destruction, and yet it is a part of the one life, the one spirit, the one design. And so if you remember, we're going to read it together. I always read it just so I don't make a mistake, because I kind of get lost in it. But let us join now in our Statement of Being. God is all, both invisible and visible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. We are individualized expressions of God and are ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And so once again, we invite Sandra and Joy to help us in a little transition as we prepare for Liz and her beautiful reading. Thank you so much. So Liz, if you would bless us now with your reading.
When I Was the Forest by Meister Eckhart. When I was the stream, when I was the forest, when I was still the field, when I was every hoof, foot, fin, and wing, when I was the sky itself, no one ever asked me, did I have a purpose? No one ever wondered, was there anything I might need? For there was nothing I could not love. It was when I left all we once were that the agony began, the fear and the questions came. And I wept, and tears I had never known before. So I returned to the river. I returned to the mountains. I asked for their hand in marriage again. I begged to wed every object and creature. And when they accepted, God was ever present in my arms, And God did not say, "Where have you been?"
Thank you, Liz. It's great to see you again.
See you as well. Happy Earth Day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was so good to see Liz, everybody. We are going to have one more piece. Sandra and Joy, you were definitely sounding better with the last piece. That was great. Thank you so much. And we're going to be sad to, oh, the masks are off. But we're
masks are off for one piece.
Yes, so we're grateful. We're grateful for you. And thank you for this final gift. Thank you so much.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be here with you all, both the community that we can see, like Jonathan and all of you that we miss so dearly in the Althea community. And we're going to sing a song whose lyrics I love. And I want to clarify because the lyrics could actually be taken to mean thriving as a human community, but I take it to mean as thriving in right relationship with our planet. And then we're going to go into a tune that I wrote, really recognizing that we're all in this together, and it really is it feels like it's about coming into a different relationship with the planet and ourselves, is the kind of way forward through all of it. So it's called We're All in This Together. And if you see a squirrel come, you may come say hello. His name is Fred. And there's been birds that have been coming up, so maybe they'll come say hi to us. Okay. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to 10 meals by. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the wild. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to 10 meals by. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the world. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Wow.
I hope that didn't distort.
No, it's beautiful. It was great. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. We are all so grateful you guys were willing to do this. And if anybody doesn't know Sandra Wong or Joy Adams, you can Google them. And I understand, Sandra, you even have a YouTube page. Is that right? Is that right?
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So does Joy.
Do you too, Joy?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. So if you want to hear them at their best, check that out. And we are just so grateful that you were here on this beautiful day. Sorry for the technical glitches, but we got it in the end. And you guys are magnificent as always. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
We love you. Love you guys.
Yeah, we love you guys.
To everyone. Yeah. Air hugs.
Oh, that's right. Air hugs, not only because we're online, but because you wouldn't be allowed to do it in person anyway. All right, I'm canceling you out, sending you on your way. Go for a hike, enjoy nature. We love you and thank you. Bye-bye. Well, here I am. After all this, it's me in my basement, and I'm gonna mute everyone but myself. I guess, which is a feature I've always wanted in life. Don't we all want that? Just muting people. So I do have a story and a message that I really wanted to share today, but it doesn't escape me the technical problems that we've had. And I think it's really important to take a moment to talk about them, because I think they point us towards something that is absolutely, for me, probably the most important, or one of the most important things that we can wake up to right now in this time of pandemic and uncertainty, which is that life is not defined by what we have, rather our relationship to it. So if you have a beautiful planet, but you exploit it, poison it, forget about it, ignore it, it doesn't really matter. And in a similar way, if you have extraordinary technology that can connect people around the world, and we use it to forget life rather than reconnect light to life, then we have fallen out of relationship with our technology as well. I think that one thing that's concerned a lot of people in this time of pandemic is the very fact that the tension between nature and technology in some subconscious way has grown. Because here we've become more dependent on being inside, more dependent on being online, more dependent on concerts virtually and Zoom meetings and streaming entertainment and so on. And what I want to say is that this moment is revealing the extraordinary capacity of technology to connect and educate. But we must not fall into the relationship in which technology becomes a constant distraction. We have the opportunity as we move out of this experience to use technology to stay more connected to people and places around the world than we ever have before. And I say we must use it, but we must use it as a kind of doorway and not a destination. Technology is a doorway and not a destination. The destination that we go through the doorway to is our world, our life. And to experience that, we need to shut the phone off, shut the TV off, shut the computer off, and experience things with our senses. Whether it's just the confines of our apartment, whether it's the plant on the windowsill, whether it's the color of the orange juice that we pour, whether it's the people that we are living with, or if we're able to go out and be in nature, it's about being with our senses. So today, very appropriately on Earth Day, let us remember that technology is a doorway and not a destination. So, shall we do a story? Now, if you've been with Althea before in person, everybody loves the fact that, well, not everybody, but lots of people love the fact that I tell stories. And I'm going to try to keep this one a little bit shorter because I think maybe online it loses something, but then to have no story doesn't feel quite right either. Well, this is a story that takes place long time ago, far, far away. And there is a princess in a kingdom. And the princess at a young age, as was very often the case in many places and times, she had her own little entourage and attendants. In particular, she had 2 attendants that were assigned to her at a young age, and as was often the case, they were young people themselves. In fact, it was a boy and a girl from a village not too far from the castle. The young woman, the girl attendant, was a radiant, bright young spirit, and we'll call her Marigold for the purpose of the story. I like that name. And then the boy, we're going to call Richard. All right. So Marigold and Richard. And both of them, you know, despite being torn from their families into a life of indentured servitude, it was kind of an honor back then. And so despite the bitterness, there was also sweetness, and they took to their jobs. It wasn't long before they both came to love the princess. They worked with her closely, and Marigold loved the princess as she would really love her sister herself. They were together all the time. Marigold was very much like a handmaid in a way. She knew everything that the princess wanted. She waited on her day and night, and it was her joy. When the princess was happy, she was happy. When the princess was distressed, she felt distressed. In fact, there were even times where there were great gatherings where maybe, you know, you've seen this kind of stuff in the movies, where the royal family couldn't be everywhere at once. And if they ever needed someone to step in and pose as the princess, Marigold would do it because she knew her mannerisms, her actions. She knew her so well. They were as one. Richard, on the other hand, also loved the princess, but Richard kind of loved the princess in a different way. Richard was infatuated with the princess. He loved the way she looked. He loved the way she dressed. I think it's fair to say he loved the idea that one day she'd be the queen, that she'd be powerful. He was enamored with everything about the princess. And ironically, because of this, he was constantly distracted and a bit bumbling and a little clumsy. Now, as these stories go, dear Richard, who was so taken by the princess, was a good-hearted fellow and very sweet in his own way. and Marigold was quite in love with him. You see, now we have a love triangle. See, got interesting. See that? Well, time goes on, and soon they're teenagers, and of course, Richard's more in love than ever, and Marigold's more in love than ever, and the princess, well, she doesn't really notice. The princess is busy being a princess. All she knows is that she relies on her attendees. She loves them as her servants. And of course, her and Marigold are very close. Richard, he's great. She relies on him, but guy's maybe a little off, right? Well, the story goes on. There's all kinds of details we could explore, but you get the picture. And one day, it is announced when the princess becomes a young adult that she is to be married to the prince who is about to be crowned king of the next kingdom over. Well, this throws both Marigold and Richard into a panic because Marigold, I mean, she's just given her life to the princess. I mean, she doesn't exist except for the princess. She haven't, with the exception of her infatuation or her love of Richard and trying to get something to happen over there. And there's really not much for her in the world. She is in love with her life of service to the future queen. But if that's what's good for the princess, then Marigold accepts it. And she surrenders to the fate. Richard, on the other hand, is going crazy because he can't bear the thought of not only the princess being married to someone else, but she's going to go live in his kingdom as the two kingdoms are merged into one to become one great empire. So the princess will become a queen alongside her new king. And what's going to happen to Richard? Well, of course, Marigold implores him, like, really, you got to let this go. If this is good for her, then it's good for all of us. And, maybe we could settle down. Maybe we could have a family. Maybe we could return to the village and begin a life. Poor Marigold, just constantly giving of herself. And old Richard, he didn't get it. He was distraught and he couldn't sleep. He was fussing and fretting day and night until the day comes where the queen is preparing her wagons, her chariots, this huge train of her goods and valuables to go off to her new home and her new life. And she sends word to Marigold. And the messenger says that the queen is so grateful for her loving service and total devotion that she would like her to come with. And more than that she would invite her to bring something to keep her happy and comfortable and cared for in her new role in the new kingdom, so she won't be lonely. And Marigold is allowed to take anything or anyone. And so she looks to poor Richard, and guess what happens? I'm not going to tell you. Well, that's it. The story stops there. And this isn't normally the way we tell stories. But I'm stopping the story there because, the story hasn't really finished. Let me explain why. Last night, my son and I were watching a movie, kind of a cheesy movie, or a family movie, kind of for kids, kind of sort of a romantic comedy. And the story in the movie is that the goofy guy is in love with this kind of ultra unattainable supermodel type. And he's got a coworker who's secretly super wonderful and super beautiful. And she's in love with him, but he doesn't notice her because he's distracted, right? He's in love with the unattainable supermodel. And eventually he does everything he can to become a terrible person. And he and the supermodel are now together. Well, it's getting towards the end of the movie and he's starting to get irritated. And I said to my son, you know what's going on here, right? And my son says, yeah, because like all the movies are like this. So he's suddenly going to wake up and realize that, you know, he had the perfect thing right beside him all along and he always took advantage of her. And then there's going to be this big chase scene because she's about to leave town. And so he's going to say no to the supermodel. And then he's going to run through the street saying, I made a mistake. Don't get on the plane. Are you with me? Are you with me? So this is kind of the setup in our story. The princess is becoming a queen. She's taking Marigold away. And Richard, what's he going to do? Is he going to profess his love? Is he going to say, I was wrong all these years? Is Marigold going to give him a second chance? Is she going to say, you know, it hasn't been easy, and I don't know that you've really appreciated me, but I want to give this a try. Okay. What does this have to do with nature? Why would this be the story today? Well, take a breath, because I think this might seem almost like a stretch for such a human story to be so relevant, but it feels very, very important to me. Marigold is the natural world. She's nature. She's Gaia. Richard is humanity. And they together have the opportunity to be in loving service of the divine. In this story, the divine is the princess, the idealized spirit of life. She is God or goddess, whatever. So here we have all the fundamental forces of your life laid out. The divine source from which we come, embodied by the princess. The landscape that we are a part of, that we are connected to, that we are always in relationship to, that is Marigold. And then us. And what we see is that nature follows spirit. Nature serves spirit. Nature is as one with spirit. The princess and the handmaid, the princess and the attendant, is like God and nature, goddess and nature, spirit and nature. Each one loves and respects and serves the other, and yet we know that spirit, that God, the princess is somehow of another world, and that one will not cross into the other. And that is fair to say. Nature, at some level, serves the invisible, but the invisible is present in the visible, loving, present world of nature. And then you have Richard. That's us. And of course, we are a part of nature. We are an expression of nature. But you see, we have separated ourselves out. We have missed the opportunity to be wedded to nature, as Liz read in the beautiful poem by Meister Eckhart. We have missed the opportunity to be in surrender, dedicated service to spirit, as Richard did with the princess. And instead, we've become caught up with ideas of ourself. Maybe one day we'll be in charge. Maybe one day we'll be in control. Maybe one day everything will be the way we want it. You see, in this story, Richard misses everything because he's caught up in a world of illusion and self-interest. And while we can't say that's true of every human being, of course not. We all are different and we all have different levels of connection with service and nature, spirit, and the world. But as a community, there is no doubt that humanity has perhaps fallen in love with what you might say is the wrong aspect, of spirit. We have become almost corrupted by our quest for power through religion, through righteousness, even through spiritual practice, and idealizing our own healing journey rather than simply being in a surrendered life of service. What we find in the story is that the one that serves spirit is ultimately rewarded by spirit. That nature will be fine regardless of what we do. We have seen with our own eyes that just with 2 months of less traffic, less industry, less business, the planet quickly heals itself. Wildlife populations quickly return. Waterways purify. We are being given a very clear message that if we screw this up and the human community disappears, the natural world will ultimately be fine. So what's the end of the story? Are we going to see clearly for the first time that our life of service must come first, that our relationship with nature must come first, that our relationship with spirit must be clear? When we embrace these simple factors to be of service, to stay surrendered and oriented in the light and honoring of God or spirit or whatever you call it, and in partnership with the abundant gifts and power and beauty of nature, then we can achieve anything. We can achieve wonderful things. Maybe anything isn't the right word. Maybe what we really need to say is that we can achieve amazing things, beautiful things, wonderful things, and we as a human community can share in the rewards, the gifts, and the blessings of that rich relationship with spirit through nature. So as we come to the end of our time, there is really one, I guess, climactic lesson that emerges out of it all for me. Because part of the story that I chose, and part of why it seems curious but is so important, is that there is a kind of curiosity about nature being personified as a person alongside humanity, that we might actually potentially be partners. In fact, even in the story, potentially wedded, as nature had suggested, like, hey, we can really get along and do something great here. But I think that's an important metaphor for us to go towards, to end with, which is that we have been confused since the time of industrialization, since nature became other, and we have become enamored with the power of the mind and the ego, and we have lost our experience of the living voice of life. We have forgotten that our ancient ancestors and the first people of the world, the indigenous people, the earth-based traditions, go back to ancient Judaism, go back to the ancient Desert Fathers in Christianity, go back to ancient Hinduism, to the early days of the Vedas, go back to ancient African cultures. Go back in time and you will hear stories and see cultures built on the notion that we can communicate with nature directly, that animals can speak to us, that the land can speak to us, the ocean can speak to us, that we are partners in the world, partners in creation. And it's not a metaphor. It's not a myth. there is literal truth that we have overlooked for centuries now. That if you take the time to sit quietly with a stone, a tree, a bird, the water, and you allow yourself to settle somewhere deeper than busy mind and frenetic emotions, when you allow yourself to enter into a place of stillness, you discover the voice of spirit in all things. All natural things are imbued with the love and wisdom of spirit. Different aspects of spirit, yes. So they have their own personalities and characteristics. A tsunami, a drought, tulips, a garden of lettuce, honeybees. Yes, they all have different songs. They all have different voices. But if we learn to listen again, then we can co-create a future with the natural world that the natural world helps shape. And that is something that many of us have not only forgotten, but haven't even imagined. That nature herself and every living creature, every plant, every animal, every mineral, every natural force has a voice to speak to us and can live with us. So, with that, we come to the end of our time. I hope that despite a little bit of chaos at the beginning of our gathering, that you can feel, that you can understand, that you can consider to embrace this very important choice that we have, this very important unfinished story, like the story of Marigold and Richard, and the question of how we will find our place in this trinity of God and nature and humanity. God and nature and humanity. How will we find our place? How will we learn to go forward, and will we be willing to listen with love, patience, and a willingness to remember other ways of knowing? This is the true and most extraordinary gift that nature offers us. And in turn, we will find that passion, clarity, and commitment to love, honor, and serve nature in return. So thank you. Thank you for being a part of our Earth Day celebration. It's not the same as being in person. If you haven't been a part of Althea before, boy, we used to have traditional native dancers and animals, wildlife coming into the sanctuary of our building. I mean, Earth Day was always something very special. But today, this is special too. And the fact that you were willing to take this time to be with us, to sit through this, to connect heart to heart at a distance, it's something truly important as we pass through the doorway of our technology into this new relationship with life. And so if you would like to continue to receive our messages, well, we're here. You can send donations. We would be very grateful. Whoever you are, wherever you are, Althea runs purely on the generosity of its community. There's a donation link that's being posted. We really, really do need all the support and energy to move forward. It's a challenging time for so many of us, so many businesses, but a community that relies on gatherings and donations is particularly tested. So we're grateful for everyone who's donated. And again, more than anything, we're grateful that you attended and that you were here with your heart and mind open and hopefully willing to go somewhere beyond. With that, let us close with a little prayer. If you like closing your eyes, if you like touching your heart, big breath in, down into the belly, and a long, slow exhale. To the one that is all, the divine life force, spirit, mystery, dear God. May we know you intimately through our humanity. May we know you intimately through every expression of nature. And may we awaken to the original wholeness of the human experience. May we engage our senses again, our intuition, our sense of wonder, our sense of connection, our sense of unfettered love and curiosity. Dear God, divine light, may we miss no opportunity to awaken, to evolve, to come together, and to learn how to learn again. We are one in spirit, and we are awakening to this truth and the beauty of this family of life that we are a part of. And we pray that today and every day forward, we would reclaim, renew, and remember this beautiful honor to live in deep relationship with the natural world in service of the spirit of life. For all these things and the love and the blessings that we have received, that we are receiving, we lift these prayers together and say, Amen. So thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful. It's been a wild ride today, and special thanks to Sandra and Joy. Sandra and Joy, special thanks to Liz. Special thanks to Susan behind the scenes, helping everything to work. Special thanks to each and all of you. And yes, extra special thanks for your time, your energy, and for those of you that were able to donate. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Don't forget, we have retreats coming up this week. You can look at our webpage. We're doing a special sacred stay-at-home retreat. We're posting messages from me on the Facebook feed like almost every day now. So there's a whole collection of messages. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So don't feel like this is the end. This is just the beginning. So bye. Love you.